Perhaps I could use this as an excuse to go to those far-off planets with little polka-dotted people if necessary, and be able to talk about love, war, nature, God, sex, all those things that go to make up the excitement of the human condition.
This is the captain. Captain Christopher Pike. Spock here. This is the captain. Our intentions are peaceful. This is the captain. My name is Christopher Pike.
Sir?
What are we running here? A cadet ship number one?
Sir, I was wondering.
Captain Christopher Pike. It's a way out of any cage, and I'll find it. We've lost the captain. This is the captain.
Captain.
Does that make you happy?
Sir?
This is the captain.
Captain.
Engage.
It appears, Magistrate, that the intelligence of the specimen is shockingly limited.
Hey everybody, welcome to Humanist Trek. It's a Star Trek podcast about the humanism in Star Trek. I'm Sarah Ray.
And I'm Allie Ashmead.
And welcome to the first episode.
Yay!
If you're here, thanks for listening. You probably have some idea of what sort of the show is going to be about if you've found your way here already. But we wanted to take an episode here just to kind of tell you about who we are and how we're connected to Star Trek and humanism and why we would even do a podcast called Humanist Trek. So let's start off with who we are and our connection to Star Trek. So
who are you, Sarah?
I'm Sarah Ray. I am a trans woman and I'm a Trekkie. I grew up watching Next Generation. It was kind of like my series of entry. And then I went back and got interested in the original series and the movies and kind of went from there. So God, in 1987?
That
And
TNG?
then, yeah.
Something like that. 87, 88. Uh-huh.
And then early 90s, then Deep Space Nine and Voyager. And so there's a point where I sort of trailed off, and we'll get to that. Hopefully, we're starting back at like the original series pilot and working our way through. But so there is a segment of Star Trek that I was not a fan of in its initial run, and so I'm excited to kind of re-experience that through this lens.
Which one was that? Do we want to say right now?
Oh, we can say, yeah. Once I really loved Deep Space Nine when it got started. Once they started getting into the Dominion War, when it changed from episodic to serialized format, that's when I kind of lost attention. But I also think like maybe that was the time and place too. Like I was a teenager doing, I was.
You didn't want to see
going
all
through
that
teenager
war saga.
stuff, and like I don't know, like it just wasn't. It didn't keep my attention.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I tried to love Voyager, and I'm sorry, people are going to hate me.
Oh, I hate you. Voyager was like, I don't know, there's a special place in my heart for it, but go ahead.
I tried to love Voyager, but for me, I think it was, I felt like the premise locked them in too tight. Like, okay, every episode's going to be how we get home.
Yeah.
Okay. And I don't know, I thought that would just get boring after a while. In rewatches, because every once a year or so I go back and rewatch everything. But I've enjoyed it more now in rewatches than I ever did when it was originally running.
Yeah.
And Enterprise, I wanted to love Enterprise so much because
I agree with you.
The premise of that really excited me. The idea of like, let's go back further and see how this whole thing started really got me excited. And then the execution was just like
awful.
Yeah. What about you?
I remember as a little child, because the original when the original series came out in 1966.
Mm-hmm.
So my mother was watching it, and I remember in the 70s, watching the reruns. And so that's how I ended up loving Star Trek. And then in 20 years later when TNG came around, and I was like, yeah, this is awesome. And I was hooked from day one. I could not remember the original series like I know the shows, the more current shows, but if I saw it as we're going through this and as I see them again, I'll be like, I remember that.
Yeah.
So yeah, And I kind of agree with you on the Deep Space Nine. But actually, I don't think I watched it at all when it was running.
Really?
But then I watched it probably maybe 15 years ago. My husband and I sat down and we just said, I did see some of them, but I just like, I'm like, I want to know why I wasn't into it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I absolutely loved it. So we marathoned all of them. And I'm like, you know what? I'm sorry. I'm sad I missed it because I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah.
So I get what you're saying about the Dominion War and all that. It was just, oh God, here we are again.
Right. It kind of lost me there.
The thing I always liked about Star Wars, oh my God, Cardinal Sin, Star Trek was the fact that they were able to like mix humor into every episode. And with the Dominion War and all that crap going, it was the more serious series. So yeah. But I get it. But I did enjoy it. And then, of course, Voyager, you hurt me. You hurt me so deeply because that is my favorite.
Wow.
That was my favorite older one. I don't know. I just enjoyed all of the dynamics between the crew. I mean, B'Elanna and the romance between B'Elanna and Tom.
Mm-hmm.
And Tom and what's his name, always getting into some kind of...
Oh, Tom and Harry and their bromance.
Tom and Harry,
Yep.
and their bromance.
Yep.
I love their bromance.
I do too. They do a podcast now.
I know. I did not know.
They do.
All right.
Yeah.
To check it out.
Garrett Wong and Robbie Duncan McNeil. They do a podcast called The Delta Flyers.
Oh, of course.
So
because
they're going
that
back. That was their ship.
Yeah.
The ship that they made. Yeah. So they're going back through and watching the episodes and
that's cool.
kind of talking about them from the perspective of being on the cast and making the show.
Yeah. That's cool.
So that's a thing that I thought would be interesting to kind of touch on too, is like, we're just fans.
We are.
Like we have no real connection to Star Trek.
None.
I'm not friends with any of those people. I don't, like,
I don't know anyone famous.
I don't have any connections to the Star Trek franchise at all, other than like, I'm just a fan.
I'm a huge fan. And I don't know. I obviously, with Voyager, Deep Space Nine, I hated Enterprise as well. I thought it was a waste of, I just didn't get it. And the only thing I liked was the romance between, and this is a spoiler, if you haven't seen it, T'Pol and Trip, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and,
right.
And that was the only reason I even suffered through it to get to the end. Just because I'm like, what the hell happened with those two?
Yeah.
And then, of course, all the new ones, and then the movies. Oh my, okay, let's do all of the movies are fantastic.
What I loved most about like the Kirk era movies was the humor. Mm-hmm. Like they really baked in humor into those stories, and that I've got notes on this for our first episode, but like sci-fi in general and Star Trek specifically at its best, right, is shining a light on current events and things that are going on and topics that maybe not easy to discuss outright, but we can tell a story about it if it's a green alien,
Yeah.
And then to mix that humor into it, it is very human in the way it tells stories. And I think that's something that I connected very deeply with.
Yep. Every single story, pretty much you could apply it to something that has gone on in human history.
I'm most excited to look back at some of the cringy shit that they did in the 60s.
Yeah. There's some cringy shit.
That's like, okay, we know that Gene really wanted to tell those stories and shine a light on current events that were happening at the time. But then there are some other things that's just like, ooh. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, maybe not as forward as we wanted to be.
I think Gene, we'll talk about this in the pilot, but there's some things I think Gene was, I don't know, I think he had some like forethought. And we'll talk about it.
Yeah. So then that's the Star Trek half of the show. The humanist half of the show is, Allie and I both identify as humanists. I helped form a local atheist humanist group back in Florida. I sort of got into that activism and like I was doing invocations at local, city council stuff. I haven't gotten into that since we moved. But that's on my list. And then as an organization, we really dove into things like homelessness and food insecurity and things that are really affecting people. And all of that stuff comes from the values of humanism for me. As someone who was formerly religious, left that faith, and then, what do I believe now? For me, that's the values of humanism. And I know your story is similar.
Similar, yeah. I love all the things that you've done. I've not even come close to doing any contributing to the world. I was pretty much always non-religious, and I don't know. I never really had like a rules for life. I never really had anything concrete. I didn't really believe in religion or any deities. But I just just be good to each other and help each other. Yeah. And that's really, really simple. Don't be mean and it do no harm. Yep. So, as far as activism, I didn't get into activism, but as being a new person in Denver or the Denver area, I hope to get involved. Yeah. Really soon.
Man, one of the things that I noticed when we first moved here was just how
kind
in your face the homelessness problem
is. It is. Oh yeah,
huge problem. And I know it's bad everywhere. Like the housing market's garbage and the economy is shit and like everything's bad. I get it, but I think it was more visible here for me than it was where I came from.
For sure,
in Florida.
For sure, because it's very much city here everywhere. Yeah. Even though they were surrounded by mountains, it's very city. Mm-hmm. So I'm on the board of a nonprofit that we support teams globally, but what our purpose is to fund the teams that are on the ground doing the work. So teams in Denver or Orlando or New York or New Jersey and different cities all across the nation. A lot of these small teams don't have the money to come up to feed the homeless or to provide things to prevent or alleviate food insecurity. So what we do is we bring those teams in as part of our umbrella, or under our umbrella, and we give them funds to do what they already do, so we can just help everyone as much as we can. So that's kind of what I do, but I'm just a nerd. I'm just a regular person.
But that's
super nerd.
That's one of the ways we got connected initially too. Is so the organization that you're talking about, formerly Foundation Beyond Belief, now Go Humanity. We were the little local group trying to do that food security work, and as a little local nonprofit organization, you're relying on donations, and you don't have anybody on staff, so it's not like you have a grant writer. So it was such a huge help to have an organization that is connected to all of those little groups to say, here, let us help you do the good work that you're doing. Right. That's gohumanity.world if you want to go check that out. I am now on the board and currently serving as the vice president of the Humanist Society. And the Humanist Society is an adjunct organization of the American Humanist Association. And essentially we endorse chaplains, celebrants, invocators, lay leaders, all of that kind of stuff, so that people without religious belief can get similar services, right? If you're not religious and you want to get married, in those places your options are
you go to the church, pastor
in a church. Yep.
And so not everyone wants to do that.
Not even all religious people want to do that, right?
Like they don't want the big to do. It's a big deal.
Yep. So we do things like, as celebrants, I'm also a humanist celebrant with the Humanist Society, and we do things like, preside over weddings and funerals and life events like, baby naming or a gender transition, anything that like you kind of mark the passage of time and milestones and moments in our lives, and that's not. Religion doesn't own that. So we kind of create a non-religious secular way to mark those milestones. So that's the humanistsociety.org. We're really looking for more people in more places. If you're interested in like performing ceremonies, please go to the website and apply.
I know I need to do that. I meant to do that a year ago, and I just been thinking about it a lot the last few weeks. I just went to a wedding, so and the whole time I'm like, oh, why didn't I do it? I could have been doing this wedding because this was for a dear friend, and But yeah, I would love to be able to provide that service to someone and make their day special. I mean, it's like so important. So yeah, okay, I'm doing it like in the next month.
Awesome.
All right, I need you to write down some like step 1, do this, Allie.
Right.
Step 2, and I need to stick to it.
Well, and I'll tell you for the audience, like it's not a difficult process either, right? Like it is an application and an interview, and you have to provide some what's the fucking word, man?
See, I have the same problems when I can't think of a word. Must be the air up here.
It must. Yeah, we went from sea level to a mile high city.
Yeah.
Anyway, you have to submit some things, and it's really not difficult. You should totally do it.
You got to do some stuff and things, you know. Okay.
So that brings us to what the hell are we doing this podcast for? And we kind of mentioned it a little bit already, but like been a fan of Trek for most of my adult life and recognized that Gene really had this humanist center to all the things that he was trying to communicate through his storytelling. Really ties back to humanism. And I thought, well, it's neat. There's, you can listen to Garrett and Robbie's podcast and hear a perspective of the actors on set. There are other podcasts who do like deep dive research into the history and the episodes and the actors and what they are and all of this stuff. And you overload your information. You can get that. Nobody's doing a podcast that's talking about the values and the humanist background of Star Trek. And so I thought that would be fun for us to do. So that's why we're here.
Yeah. I think we started talking about this a year ago.
At least a year ago.
And I for me, it's really refreshing to find someone who loves Star Trek as much as I do and likes to talk about the little shit and gets all the weird jokes and like gets all my memes and stuff. Because it's like, and most people are like, oh God, it's Star Trek again. But no, you get it and you laugh. And so I think, I was like, okay, we do need to do this. And I remembered us talking about doing like, do you remember Mystery 3000 Theater?
Oh yeah.
We talked about trying to do that format, but I'm like, no, we can't show that. We can't show the show. We'll get sued.
Right.
But and I guess I don't know if I realized how much humanism there was in the show. I just loved the show because it was just, they always tried to do the honorable thing, the right thing. And so I was like, okay, yeah, we got. That's
awesome. So you're kind of going back through it with a whole different approach 100%.
And outlook. I'm going through it with fresh eyes now.
Oh, hey, before we go, let's talk about New Trek. Trademark New Trek.
Is that what that new? Is that what all the new remakes and?
Well, you talked about like
prequels.
Like being excited for Deep Space Nine and Voyager. We talked about that a little bit. That you grew up on OG Trek, and then when Next Gen came along, you were excited for that.
I was already a fan, yeah.
Whenever there's a new Star Trek series, half the group, this isn't Star Trek. Yeah. And so right now there is what, like 5 or 6 Star Trek series? I'll write them down.
Oh, let's see. Okay.
Discovery, Picard. Strange New Worlds, Lower Decks, and what's the one that's on Nickelodeon? Prodigy.
What? Yeah. I don't know about that one. I don't have Nickelodeon. So.
Yeah, you got to check that out too.
Is that like cartoon or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. It's another. This ragtag group of alien kids finds an old starship, and like there's a hollow character that's Captain Janeway. Yeah.
I did not know about that at all. So, I don't have any kids, so that's why.
So I hope I didn't miss any of them, because that'll be a shame on us.
I feel like there's one missing, but maybe it's just the movies, all of the new movies that have come out.
But anyway, like, so people are, grumble, this isn't Star Trek. And it's funny because like you can easily get into these arguments with people. There is a Facebook group that's called something to the effect of, so you say you've seen Star Trek, right? Or like you've seen Star Trek, but
do you know about this? Do you know what this is?
Have you really seen Star Trek?
Yeah.
Because it's like people are all over the internet complaining, this isn't Star Trek. Like, where's my optimistic, hopeful vision of the future or whatever? Forgetting entirely that every episode of classic Star Trek had like a 7-minute choreographed set to music fist fight.
100%.
That's our optimistic future. Okay. Like
I think they made it better over time. I mean, but it's okay if it's different. Then
if it's not your Star Trek, that's okay.
Yeah, it's fine if it's not the same. Who wants to be the same? If it's the same, you don't grow. And it's gotten so much better.
I think so. And I think
while still appreciating the old.
Yeah. I think Strange New Worlds is probably my new favorite. My favorite of the new series.
I will agree.
Anson Mount.
Oh my God.
Hello.
Hot. I mean, come on.
Well, and so that's a good springboard into the next episode where we're going to talk about the Cage, which is where we meet Captain Pike for the very first time, played by Jeffrey Hunter. And then now all these years later, recreated as Anson Mount. The Anson Mount was like the best casting choice they could have made. He is incredible. Like the look is there. Like I can look at him and go, "Yep, that's might as well be Jeffrey Hunter." Like, and just the demeanor and the way he carries himself and the way he puts himself into the character, it's just amazing. Absolutely amazing.
I have other reasons, but those two. But
one of the segments that we're going to do on Humanist Trek is. We're going to bring in my wife, Becca. Hello, welcome to the show.
Hi.
Would you describe yourself as a Star Trek fan?
Not by choice, probably.
Well, I did not. I was never obsessed with Star Trek. There's no pictures of me in a red suit with billions of dollars, now's currency worth of paraphernalia behind me.
It's not worth that much now.
No.
It's really not.
Okay, well, it sure looked like it should have been, but
I do wish I still had all of that stuff. But
no, I mean,
what was your introduction to Star Trek?
The only exposure to Star Trek that I had prior to being married to Sarah was that my mom would watch TNG, and I didn't really get into it. It was just in the peripheral and background noise. So there are episodes that Sarah will watch and I'll be like, this is familiar. Why do I know this?
I know I've seen it, and it's in your brain.
Because I was a kid, and she would watch it when it was on the TV. She would watch it, and it was just background noise to me. So that was my prior to Sarah exposure, like very limited. I had never seen the original series. I never saw any of the movies. I did Voyager and TNG were the ones that she would watch that I kind of mostly TNG, but there was some Voyager in there. Just depended on where it was.
Interesting. No Deep Space Nine, because those three were all at a time they were all going at the same time.
Is that the one with who's the hot box? The hot guy.
What?
He's not really that hot, but I thought he was cute when I was a kid. What's the guy in Voyager? Not Voyager, Deep Space Nine.
Cisco.
No, what's the actor's name?
Oh shit.
God.
Scott Bakula.
Oh no, that's Enterprise. No, and he's not hot either.
No,
oh god,
that's the wrong name then.
Yeah,
Scott Bakula played a captain.
Did it?
It was Enterprise,
but
it was
Enterprise
because he was the Quantum Leap guy.
This is how disconnected I am. I have no idea. I think Scott Bakula.
And then she's going to be like, "But what? And what about the Wookiee? What's the one with the Wookiee in it?"
No, see, I grew up with Star Wars.
I know.
My brother's a Star Wars fan, so
if you got that wrong, you're
okay. So Becca thought it would be really fun as not a Star Trek fan
to try to stump
us. To come up with some questions, episode by episode, we'll bring you in. We're going to ask the question on this episode. We'll answer it. And then Becca will come back for the next episode to tell us whether we were right or not.
Okay. Cool.
So our first question is about the cage,
It's about the cage.
Okay.
which we're going to be reviewing on the next episode.
Something wrong, Captain?
Who are you? Where do you come from?
Have you noted evidence of unusual powers?
What is it that powers your vessel, Captain? Is there anything else? Modern people have to call inanimate objects she.
That is a very intriguing question.
In this episode, number 1 is played by Majel Barrett. Why did she not reprise this role through the rest of the series? And what did she and Gene Roddenberry do in an attempt to change this outcome?
Sex is what they did. Lots and lots of sex.
you can't
Why
not
did
an
she
answer.
not? I don't know. Do you know why?
No. She didn't come back as number 1. So in the pilot, she was the first officer,
Right.
number 1. When we come
bet I know why.
into the next series, into the next episode, Spock is the first officer.
I bet I know why. And no, I can't remember how you phrased the question. Was it her choice or why she decided not to? I bet it was society saying, we don't want a woman on the bridge.
Mm-hmm.
I bet you that they weren't ready for it yet. That was the thing. It was maybe because society wasn't ready to see a woman up there. I don't know. That's the only thing I can think
I could guess.
of because
Because they pitched the cage to the network, and there are a couple of scenes where they like hit that hammer hard right on the nail about having a woman first officer and all of that stuff.
Yep. So that's the only.
then-
Because
but
I
then
don't
what-
know. I'm guessing.
What would they have done then to try to turn that around? They went on a hunger strike.
Ooh, we're not a hunger.
The second part of the question is, what did Gene and Majel do in an attempt to change this outcome?
Did they go?
No, I don't know.
I have
I'm
no
just
idea.
making shit up.
I
don't
can't
know.
believe you don't know.
Question number 1, and you've got us
I
stumped.
don't know.
All right.
Yeah, but good job.
I like
Good
your
job.
attempt at the first part of the question, but I am amazed that you don't have anything for the second part.
What did they do?
They made the skirts shorter.
Yeah, that sounds like something like they do in the 60s because the women were so sexualized.
Yeah, we'll give her some go-go boots
Oh yeah,
and a short skirt.
yeah. Deep
Yeah.
cut, deep cleavage. That's every show. Yeah, I don't know.
I don't either.
That would be my guess.
Guess you'll have to wait until next week to find
All
out.
right. Good job on the question.
Damn.
We're stumped. Dang it.
So join us for the next episode of Humanist Trek, where we will review original series first pilot, The Cage. And I'm going to read at the at the end of these. I will read the capsule that Paramount Plus has on their app.
Oh, cool.
Right, because I'm watching these on Paramount Plus. It's got all your Star Treks. When the Enterprise answers a distress call, Captain Pike, Jeffrey Hunter, encounters manipulative aliens. That's it. We've had 50 some odd years to come up with a capsule, an episode description.
Yeah, and that's all
that's what they got?
Yeah. Even in the remastered, they remastered all that great stuff, but they didn't even, like, dude, add a blurb about what the fuck this is about. What, a little bit more than encounters manipulative aliens.
Yeah, right. So join us on the next episode. We'll see you then.
Bye.
Humanist Trek is available wherever you replicate your podcasts. Follow us on all the social medias at Humanist Trek. Become a patron at patreon.com/humanisttrek. Send emails to us at podcast@humanisttrek.com and visit our website, humanisttrek.com.